Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by the absolutely amazing horror miser, Monty G. Monty, how you doing today, brother?
Great. Thanks for having me on, Ken. Very appreciate it. Once again, meeting you and working with you again, and looking forward for this excellent stream podcast here.
Oh man, I can't tell you how excited I am for this. The big thing about this is we were able to work together on a live stream. A lot of you have already seen that, but that was the first time that we had actually gotten to work together. So to be able to come back and circle around, to be able to learn how horror started for you is super important to me. So you did start watching horror films when you were about 6 or 7 years old, which obviously had a huge influence on your life because of what you're doing now. But can you tell people a little bit about your channel and what you do over there?
Well, like I said, I am known as the Horror Miser Monty G. Most people, my real name is Lamont Smith. My channel is the Horror Miser Monty G. I basically review horror movie reviews. I also do live streams. I am part of two live stream groups. One is the Horror Hangout live stream, which we just did one a couple weeks ago on my channel, and then I'm also part of the Night Watch Zone, and the Deadly Venoms. We also will have our next live stream this Thursday coming up. I also do top 10 lists. I also have obviously trailer reaction videos. I did a trailer reaction video of Idris Elba's latest horror film, Beast. Obviously, I did a trailer reaction for Prey, which of course everyone's looking forward to that. I
Yes.
also do, of course, one of the two favorite films videos I like to do are my midterm years, which is my top 5 best and top 5 worst horror films of the year so far. That'll be coming up towards the end of this month. And of course, I'll obviously segue that until my top 10 best and top 5 worst horror films of the year when it comes to December.
Okay. And I do want to say, because this video will be premiering in August. So you guys, everything he just talked about, you could check out by clicking his YouTube link down here in the description and subscribing to his channel, as well as following him on social media. All those links are down here. What made you decide to actually start a channel and start doing reviews and top 10 lists? What finally kicked you in the rear and made you decide this is something I'm going to do?
Well, I've always watched movie reviews. Obviously, when Cisco and Ebert, when when they actually had to show on PBS before they moved it into syndication. And eventually, when YouTube started becoming much more mainstream, I watched some of the bigger guys, whether it's Jeffrey Johns, Chris Stuckman, and those guys. Even I think her name is Grace from Beyond the Trailer. I started watching them and how they review movies, but I wasn't seeing a lot of horror movie reviews. Where are all the horror guys at? It eventually led me to several of horror channels that basically just did horror. One of the first ones I started watching was Emma from Spooky Astronauts. I started watching her channel.
Oh, she's so awesome.
Yeah. Then I found Vicky from Spooky Astronauts. I found her channel. Cecil and I always get his name, Frago, Cecil and Frago, and their guys from the horror show, John and Jay from Bloodbath and Beyond. And I started seeing all these channels, and eventually I got with Gory and Dan from Horror Addicts. I think mainly because of them and seeing everyone else do all their channels, says, you know what, I could probably do this. I'm going to start my own channel. And they actually encouraged me to go on ahead and start doing my own channel. And I started, once I started getting more into it, I got more into the horror community. Eventually, my channel to start growing and growing. Once I got more incorporated with the horror community on YouTube, and now that's why I've been. I think for the past 5 years now. I think that's how long my channel has been on.
Dude, and I gotta say, right off the top, the horror community is the best community in the world. I know that there's shitty people in the community, but every community has shitheads, guys. So now you just mentioned some people, Cecil Laird and Fuego over there at the horror show. You talked about Emma from Spooky Astronauts. You're talking about all these people that are such an influence on me as well. And it's so nice to know that these people could influence you as well, because that's what we're all here for, is to try to help each other and be influenced on each other and really make, the horror community a better place. So do you have anything coming up down the pipeline that you can tell us about that people can be ready for?
Let's see. I'm going to have I just finished writing the script for my Jurassic Park Dominion. I just did that today, so I have that up tomorrow. Let's see, we have the live stream of the Night Watch Zone and the Daily Venom that's coming up. I'm also going to be working with a live stream with Gory Bean Movie, probably either this Saturday or next Saturday. We're still trying to work out the date. Have a live stream about them. We're basically going to talk about witchcraft and movies. So that's what's coming up for the pike. And obviously, we got the Black Phone that's coming up. And of course, my mid-year review of my top 5 best and top 5 worst horror films of the year so far.
So let me ask you this, and obviously by the time this comes out, it'll be August, but I still want to keep it spoiler free. What were your thoughts on Jurassic World Dominion?
Well, I'll say this, it was much improvement over what was Fallen Kingdom was, because Fallen Kingdom was a bit of a letdown. You know, Jurassic World came out and it was great. It reminded the people why we loved the Jurassic Park film series. And then when we come with Fallen Kingdom, it's kind of a bit of a letdown. So coming up with Dominion, it's obviously a much improvement than Fallen Kingdom. However, it's not as good as, and you're not going to top the first film. Obviously, you're not going to top the first film. It's a little better than The Lost World. Obviously better than Fallen Kingdom. But if I were to rank it, it would somewhere probably be in the middle. It has its flaws, as with most of some of these like the other films, like say I would say definitely with The Lost World and Fallen Kingdom, it does have its flaws, but it was nice seeing the legacy characters. That's another phrase that's coming up now, especially when it comes to horror films, legacy characters. It was nice seeing Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum back once again in their iconic roles, and how they interacted with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard. It was pretty good. It had some exciting moments in here, but it was entertaining enough so that way it's going to make its money, as I'm pretty sure you saw in the box office. It made a lot, I think close to 150 million over the weekend. So it's going to make its money, but I would rank it somewhere in the middle.
Like I see all these reviews and everybody is tearing this movie apart, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
I watched the same movie as you guys because I had fun.
I think I know why. One of the problems, especially when you come up with a franchise like Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, sometimes the characterization is not there. Some of the set pieces that they use, while it was very exciting to see it, we've seen it before. I don't want to give a lot away. Some of the stuff that they do is something that we've seen before. There's really nothing new. The villain is not as engaging as, like, say, in the first Jurassic World film. From you want to try to do something a little bit different. Yeah, we get to see another dino fight in the film, which is okay, but it's not as good as it was in the original Jurassic World film, or even like not even I would say even in the third one, that was still good. But obviously, I think the best dino fight that we had was actually in Jurassic World, where we had the Indominus Rex and the T-Rex and the Monosaurus come up.
Yeah. Well, see, like another thing, I thought a lot of the visuals, I loved the fire in the sky visuals that happened in this movie. I thought that was really, really good.
Yeah.
And there's some, legacy dino characters. We get to see our old buddy, the Velociraptor with the spitter. Like, we get to see him come back in this one and make an impact. So, yeah, I did like it too. So, but you guys can watch his full-on review by subscribing to his channel by clicking the links right down here in the description. So make sure you are doing that. Now, Monty, we talked about what you got going on in the future and what you're doing now. But now, my friend, I would like to go back to the past. I would like to go back many moon ago and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Monty, the first horror movie that you watched was
39 or 43, 1943's Universal Monsters, The Mummy. I was approximately maybe 6 or 7 years old at the time when I first saw The Mummy. It was the first Universal Monsters film that I saw. I knew of Dracula. I knew of Frankenstein. I knew of the Wolfman, but I actually never saw them. My first experience with the Universal Monster was The Mummy. And I was very surprised, because, back then, when you look at the Universal Monsters, especially some of the techniques that they did, and the limited technology they had, they were able to create incredible monsters. And I was truly surprised, not because of how dark and atmospheric the film was. Now, then again, I'm just a 6 or 7 year old kid. I'm just having fun just
Right.
watching Boris Karloff, do what he does best. And that's what I'm amazed with it, because it never really scared me. I just found it entertaining when I first started watching horror films, and watching The Mummy really got me into horror.
See, and I've always been a huge fan of the Universal monsters. Universal monsters is something to me that I feel like if we didn't have the Universal monsters back then, we wouldn't have what we have now.
Mhm.
And the ideas from the Universal monsters have always been so great, and what they've been able to accomplish as the Universal monsters. So we know about how old you were, roughly around the age of 6 or 7. But do you remember who it was that watched these with you for the first time?
My brother, he's watched some of them with me. I'm the oldest of two children, just myself and my brother Kenny. He watched it with me. We had a great time watching it. It allowed me to watch the other Universal monsters, watching Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, all the Universal monsters, Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Creature Rises, the Invisible Man, the Phantom of the Opera, anything that was Universal monsters related, I watched it.
Did you say that your brother's name is Kenny?
Yeah, his name's Kenny, yes.
He must be a very handsome, well regarded, just prince of a man. Anybody with the name Ken or Kenny, you can trust that person the minute you meet him. I just want to throw that out there as well. So we know that the Mummy being very, very effective, and it's something that even kids that were a little bit later on that didn't watch the Mummy, maybe they were affected by the Mummy and the Universal monsters with such movies like Monster Squad. Like that's the impact that the
Mm-hmm.
Universal monsters have. But do you remember which scene from the Mummy affected you the most?
I don't know, it really affected me. I think the whole movie was just great. I mean, seeing Boris Karloff wrapped up, I think that's one of the things I find amazing, because when he's all wrapped up in the mummy, and he's moving very carefully, and then next thing you know, he's reaching out, and I like that perspective when you have the mummy when he's reaching out to you, even though, and I think that's what I really found amazing about watching the mummy was, he's all wrapped up and he's rumbling real slow, but he reaches out and kills the person that he's trying to get. That's what make that scene so effective.
For sure. And like you said, and Boris Karloff is just a staple in the horror community. He's somebody, Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff. Without them, horror wouldn't be today what it is. And I just feel like that's an absolute fact. I feel like there's no debating that. So we know that, seeing that mummy, seeing him reach, those are all things that we all think of when we think of the Mummy. But what would you say, Monty, your favorite scene from the Mummy is?
I think when they finally realize when he finally becomes Artif Bey, and eventually when they found out that he's Imhotep, and when he finally ages, ages, that scene was decent. And again, because you would think that they can't pull that off, but how he ages, and he all of a sudden he realized that he's not who he is. I think, wow, that really got me. It's like, wow, that's fantastic. And my mother had told me how old the film was, because she heard about these films, but she didn't think, she thought I was too young to see it. She asked me, does that bother you? I said, no, it doesn't bother me. I said, I found it fascinating. I said, I'd like to know how they did that.
Right. And seeing the practical effects back then, like, yeah, some
Mm.
people say they don't hold up now, but I'd rather watch a practical effect from there than a bad CGI from 10 years ago any day of the week. So
Oh, trust
I
me,
totally
yes.
got much love and respect for that.
Trust me. I'd rather see the Wolfman than seeing the actual Wolfman that start Bianca Benicio del Toro and darn, why I can't get these names together.
Well, that transformation, of putting the hair on him and then cutting and putting the hair on, I would rather see a transformation like that than a CGI transformation any day of the week. Any
Hmm.
day of the week. So we talk about the Mummy and how that movie affected you, but something that's going on in Hollywood now, and it's something you and I have talked about openly, is requels, prequels, remakes. It's kind of all the rage right now.
Hmm.
Would you like to see the Universal Monsters Mummy remade today?
Oh man, I've had this conversation about plenty of times, not on my channel, but also when it comes to, I think we did it on the live stream on the horror hangouts. when it came to Universal Monsters and them trying to create their so-called dark universe. Eh, it's I understand that they want to be able to create something like Disney and Kevin Feige made with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's what all filmmakers want to do right now. Is that we got to have something that Kevin Feige did, and you really have to try. You can't just build it quickly, and that was the problem Universal did. Is that what they should have done was simply just, okay, we're going to start with this one film. We're going to build the characters up and then just throw little subtle hints at the end. That's why Iron Man was so successful. Not to go off topic, but if you're going to try to do something what Marvel has done, you see, they just focus on Iron Man's character. That was it. They didn't mention anything else about nothing about anything else. Yeah, you got subtle hits about other people surrounding Iron Man's character, but it wasn't until the end of the film that all of a sudden, next thing you know, we see Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury, and he mentions that we're going to start the Avengers Initiative. Everyone's went crazy. It's like, especially if you're a Marvel fan like I am, but you really have to try to build the characters up, create a decent story, and get that out there, and then throw the subtle hints at the end of the film to get people excited. And if you're going to do that with the Universal Monsters, instead of the crap that they came up with Tom Cruise, which was totally miscast, that particular film, do something like they actually did with Brendan Fraser's Mummy. That was nice. And if you would have just had and if you just would have threw a subtle hit at the end of that film, oh yeah, we would have gotten very excited. Oh wow, they're going to bring back, you're actually going to bring back other Universal Monster characters.
And what I like about Brendan Fraser's Mummy is it has so many different real horrifying scenes, like the bugs, those beetles that get into your skin and kill you like that. That scene really messed with me when I was a kid, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed that scene. It was like, wow, this really did create something great here, and I was really looking forward to seeing if they're going to actually do something good with whether it was obviously tried it with Dracula Untold, which I didn't have a kind of a problem with, but I understand because the movie didn't make any money, so they scrapped that. And I don't know what they're going to do. I'm pretty sure Universal is still trying to do something. At least the Invisible Man that they have, that was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. So they are trying to do something.
I would love to see them do more like that. Like my personal favorite, you know what? Let's get right into that question, because that's a question I asked. Since we're talking about the Universal Monsters, and obviously we got a bunch of them here. What was your favorite Universal Monster of the bunch?
Wow. Because I love them all. I would have to go with the Wolfman. It was Lon Chaney's performance of it. He's not like, say, all the other Universal Monsters other than Frankenstein's monster. He's the only one that wasn't morally questionable. He was an honest man who got caught with a curse, and he's trying his best not to kill people, but he can't help it. So you really have to feel sorry for his character. And again, because of the great practical effects makeup that they have and how he transforms into the Wolfman. That's why I truly loved it, because when I first saw the Wolfman, I was saying, wow, that's fantastic. Why can't we have more pictures do this?
Right. And see, my personal favorite has always been the Creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't know what it is. And I love how they tried to, pay homage to that with The Shape of the Water. I thought that was a good film. But I would love to see more, like you said, with the Invisible Man, what they did with Lee Winnell's Invisible Man, by taking this idea and making it your own. I thought it was brilliant. And I would love to see them do that with more Universal Monsters. So, Monty, we talked about your first horror movie being The Mummy and what that movie means to you. But now I want to throw you a little bit of a curveball here real quick. My little buddy Ghostface here has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Monty? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
I'm pretty sure almost everyone knows by now. My favorite horror movie of all time is The Exorcist. Just like I told you before in the stream, I'm a child of the 70s. I grew up during the 70s. And, when The Exorcist first came out, I went to see it. My mother said, nope, that movie's too scary. You won't be able to go see it. But of course, being a little smart little kid that I was, I'm still going to see it. So me and my couple of friends, we snuck downtown, went to go see the theater. And yes, it was very crowded. The lines were just as long as you saw in the in the newspaper magazines. The lines were that long because everybody wanted to see what the hell this movie was about. And seeing Reagan, seeing this 9-year-old, was she 9 or I forget how old she was. I think she was 10 or 11 years old. Well, anyway, seeing this little girl spew a whole bunch of F bombs, and then making all the vulgarity that she was, and seeing the people just react to it, whether they were throwing up, running out of the theater, or simply just throwing up, or just fainting. To me, it was like that was totally amazing. I never will forget it.
I get asked all the time, like, if you could go back in time and see one movie in the movie theaters, what would it be? And The Exorcist is always the one that comes to my head. And much like you, I was very blessed. I grew up, my parents owned a video store. And so I had videos at my disposal whenever I wanted. And my mother and I sat down to watch The Exorcist one day. And that's the only movie my mother ever shut off. She was like, nope, we're not doing this. This is too much. So that movie always has a stigma around it. I still to this day think that's the scariest movie that's ever been made. There'll never be a movie that can top what that film did, having people, like you said, faint in theaters, having churches calling to get the movie taken down. Like this movie, I don't think we could ever see anything like that happen today. What a great film. And it's funny because I've always said The Exorcist is the scariest horror movie ever made. The Exorcist 2 is the worst movie ever made. And The Exorcist 3 is actually my favorite in that franchise. I think The Exorcist 3 it's probably in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. The performances in it are phenomenal. The follow-up, skipping over part 2, acting like it never happened, going from 1 to 3. It's just such a phenomenal film, and I love it so much. But Monty, I've had such an amazing time talking to you about how horror started for you and your favorite horror movie. But man, all good things must come to an end. The credits are about to roll. The curtain's about to drop. We're at the end of the third act. But before we go, Monty, I want to go back to The Mummy. And what we're going to do now is we're going to rank this on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. What we're doing here, Monty, is we're strictly judging this movie on how much it affected you on first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. What would your ranking of The Mummy be?
It'll be 5 skulls.
Gotta be.
And what really got me into horror, because at the time, not only did you have Universal horrors, and then you had Hammer horror.
Right.
And that's when, and all of a sudden, next because I'm seeing all these Hammer horror films. Now, at the time, I didn't know it was Hammer, but I'm seeing, where are all these Dracula films coming from? And of course, the late great Christopher Lee, and first seeing the House of Dracula and Prince of Darkness, and one of my favorite of all time, Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. One of my favorite scenes of all time when it comes to a Dracula film is Dracula is going back up to his castle, but he can't because of the cross is there, and he sends poor girl and he throws her out the way and he says, "Get that thing out of my sight." I just crack up. Me and my brothers crack up laughing every time.
That's so great, man. And I love the fact that these horror movies, which are made to be dark and scary and morbid, mean so much to us. And we all have this connection through it. And somebody else you brought up earlier was horror addicts. And you would be hard pressed to hear me say one negative thing about that lovely couple. They are very giving. They are intelligent. There's so much about them that I could go on and on for days and days and days about horror addicts and what they do. And Gory B, she is just an angel on earth. And so all these people that are in our circles that have helped you and I to intertwine with each other, it's just so amazing. And I'm so blessed to be a part of this community and to be able to make friends like yourself. Like, it's so amazing to think about what we are all into. We're into watching these dark, scary, morbid movies, but you are all the most down to earth, amazing, nice people. It's just, you can't make it up. It's that juxtaposition, like the sweetest, kindest people in the world love the most morbid, gory, disgusting things. And it's just that juxtaposition to me is such an amazing thing. So I said it a couple times already, guys. but there's some links down here that need your love. And I promise you, you will not regret it. Monty has amazing content. Make sure you're following him on social media as well. That way you can keep up to date on everything that he has coming up. Monty, don't go anywhere, my friend. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.